Torah Guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.
Shalom, 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 mishpokah. Grafted in Gentiles into the body of Mashiach. John J. Tatum, Pastor John. The album is entitled Torah. The song is entitled Torah. Yahuwah's Torah is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our pathway. Yahuwah's Torah is bread when we're hungry, water when we're thirsty. Yahusha said, I am the bread of life. He told the woman at the well, I am living water. Yahusha said, if ye abide in me and my words abide in you, you can ask what you will. If you have the Torah on the inside of you. The Torah is a teacher and a schoolmaster given to us to bring us to a place until Yahusha would come. Torah is righteous. Can't do nothing without the Torah. I can't learn nothing without the Torah. I can't feel without the Torah. Yahuwah, I give you praise right now in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. I praise you for your Torah made flesh. I praise you for your tablets of stone, your Torah concealed in the ark of the covenant. Yahuwah, a righteous Torah. I thank you for Yahusha HaMashiach, a righteous Torah made flesh, full of grace and truth. Yahuwah, I give you praise. Yahuwah, Yahusha said the words that you had given him, he's given us. And I'm asking you right now in the name of Yahusha, by your Ruach HaKodesh, to call those things to my remembrance, which he has spoken. Take the reins of my lips, take the reins of my tongue, Yahuwah, and reign. Take the reins of my tongue, take the reins of my lips, Yahusha, and reign. Yahuwah, I do not want to offend any of these your sheep. I do not want to cause anybody to go astray. I don't want to cause any to stumble. I don't want to cause anyone to turn away from the Basora of truth. Yahuwah, I submit myself to you. I'm trusting in you. Ruach HaKodesh, Spirit of Yahuwah and Yahusha in me. Yeah, cause me to be a part of the beloved. Ruach, I yield myself as an instrument of thy righteousness. Use me, Yahuwah, I present my body. A sacrifice living unto you, Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Hallelujah, Yahuwah. Yahuwah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, because I can't live without your Torah. Can't learn without your Torah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Without your Torah, I can't live without, listen. I love the Basora. I love the Torah. I love the Basora. I love the Torah. And I can't live without it. I can't do anything without the Torah. Torah is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my pathway. The entrance of the Torah gives light. It gives understanding to the simple. I can't do nothing without the Torah. I can't learn without the Torah. I can't make it without the Torah. Without your Torah, how can I live without it? There is no grace without it. Torah, Basora, one and the same. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Yahuwah was the word, the Torah made flesh. The Torah. Pastor John J. Tatum. I do not own the rights to this music. We going in. Listen. I do what I do because of Yahusha. Right. I recognize what he has called me to do as a guardian of the Torah, a guardian of the Besorah, as a kinsman redeemer, as an avenger. I understand and recognize what he's called me to do. He called me to teach the Besorah. He called me to preach the Besorah, and that's what I do. That's what I do. I do that because I have to do that. I mean, I do this every day because I have to do it. If I don't do it that day, it's because he told me I didn't have to do it that day. But I do it because he tells me to do it. I proceed in the Besorah of truth every day because he's told me to. This Besorah must be preached. This Besorah must be teached. It must be plainly expounded upon, right? So that a little child can discern the Torah, the truth, the Besorah. See, because the Torah by design was to be taught to our kids. The Besorah of truth is to be taught to our kids. There's elements to the Torah, right, that are more deeper and requires deeper understanding, but by nature, the Torah is simplistic. The message of Yahusha is a simplistic message. Right? It's not complicated. Right? It's not rocket science. No. It's simplistic. It's not code. It's not Morse code. It's simplistic. Right? It's easily discernible. Torah, truth. The Besorah. To those who have the Ruach HaKodesh, the Torah is discernible. And those who haven't received the Ruach HaKodesh must have emunah in what Yahusha has said and receive the Ruach HaKodesh in order to gain a deeper understanding of the Besorah, the Torah of truth. Gotta believe it. You gotta believe the Besorah of truth. Then you got to understand Yahusha is the way. You got to walk in the way of obedience to Torah. You got to walk in the way of obedience to Torah. And you have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. This awakening must receive the Ruach HaKodesh. It must walk in this Ruach. The problem is it's leaning too much to its own understanding, right? The Ruach. Not the Ruach, I'm sorry. The awakening. It's leaning way too much to their own understanding, right? Foregoing the need for the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the revealer of truth, right? That brings forth the real revelation of the Torah. They lean into their own understanding, right? When it says lean not into your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge Yahuwah, Yahusha, and the Ruach HaKodesh within one. And he directs you. The Ruach will lead you and guide you. Yahusha leads and guides by the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahusha led the disciples in the earth because he was in the earth all power, the sole possessor of the Ruach HaKodesh, until he breathed into his disciples after he was resurrected and told them to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. But up until that time, he was the Ruach HaKodesh. It was in him. The Father was in him. He said, Yahusha told the Pharisees, look, my Father is in me, and I'm in the Father. Right? By the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit of Yahuwah. The Ruach HaKodesh is essential to accurately dispensing of the word of Yahuwah. And you know what? Listen, even as you preach and teach the Besorah of truth, right? In the Ruach HaKodesh, it will let you know when you're moving in the wrong direction. It'll let you know when you need to come back. The Ruach is not the spirit of confusion, right? The Ruach is not the spirit of confusion. For he has not given us the spirit of confusion. We have the Ruach of power and of love and of a sound mind. We have not received the spirit of fear. We have not received the spirit of confusion in the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? But it's the spirit, the power of love, the righteousness of the Ruach, the Dunamos, the Exousia. We have what we need in the Ruach HaKodesh. Let's go in. We're in the 9th chapter of YOCHANON, and as you well know, I'm going to be in the Besorah of YOCHANON until Yahusha tells me otherwise. Right, I'm just going to move my way through the Besorah of YOCHANON, right? And we're in the 9th chapter of YOCHANON, 9th chapter. And the 9th chapter is dealing with Yahusha and his healing of a blind man. Yahusha's the light of the world, right? He's the light of the world. Everything the Yahusha does, he does by divine order. Right? He follows the order, the pattern that has been established by the Father. Right? He does what the Father says do. Right? He encounters the people that Yahuwah has him to encounter. He heals those whom Yahuwah has called to be healed. Yahusha says, no man come unto him unless the Father draws him. And then Yahusha doesn't do a thing unless the Father tells him. John, the 9th chapter, the 1st verse. And Yahusha passed by. And as Yahusha passed by, he saw a man which was blind from birth. Now, Yahusha had been going somewhere, right? And in the 8th chapter, you know, if we go to the end of the 8th chapter, we know that they had taken up stones to stone him, right? Right? And Yahusha goes through the mist and so passed by. Right? So they all took up stones that were willing to stone him. Not everybody was like, oh, let's join the bandwagon and stone Yahusha. No, you had people who believed that he was Mashiach. Right? You had people who believed he was a prophet. They weren't trying to stone him. And these Jews, these Pharisees, these non-believers, right? These Edomites, these Esau descendants. Then they took up stones to cast at him. And Yahusha hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them. He hid himself. He hid himself. How did he hide himself? It doesn't say. How was he able to cloak himself? But he hid himself, right? And he went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, the crowd, the group that was going to stone him. He went through the midst of them. And so passed by, right? Now, as he passed by, Yahusha, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. Now, if this is a continuation from having just left the Pharisees and those that were about to stone him, right? Yahusha just left them passing by and passed by a man that he saw that was blind from birth. Right? And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Now, when you look at this situation, right, it was an intense occurrence at the end of chapter 8. They were about to kill Yahusha. And even in chapter 8, and I think up to chapter 7, chapter 8, you don't even hear mention of his disciples, right? But they were there. But you don't hear mention of the disciples. You hear the attention on Yahusha and his dialogue with the Pharisees and with those who were there that heard. Those that were there that participated in the woman being taken in the act of adultery, right? You don't hear much of the disciples, but you know they were there. Excuse me, actually, when he went to the temple, right? He said he went up to the temple to pray. He went up to the Mount of Olives. Then he went to the temple. It didn't even say him and his disciples went to the temple. Him and his disciples went up to the Mount of Olives. That he did. And no doubt the disciples knew where to find Yahusha. He going to the temple. Because, that's what he do. He goes and teaches, right? He going to teach Torah. He gonna do it. He gonna do it every opportunity he gets. He gonna teach. We know he gonna teach the Torah. We know he gonna preach the Basora too. He gonna teach the Torah. He gonna teach it to. We know what he gonna do, right? And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin? Right? Because that in Deuteronomy, right, if we keep the commandments, right, then the blessings would come, right? But if we didn't keep the commandments, these curses would come and all kinds of manner of sickness and diseases. All these things happen, right? Because we didn't obey the Basora of truth, the Torah. Right? And they asked him, it's our common understanding that when certain things happen, it's because of sin. Right? But they asked Yahusha, who did sin, this man or his family? Because Yahusha visits the iniquities of the fathers unto the sons, unto the third and fourth generation. So they had a record of why things transpired according to the text. According to the Torah. They understood, right? So when they asked the question based on their somewhat probably vague understanding, but they understood the Torah. Who said? Right? Who did it? The man or his mother? The man or his father? Him or his parents? Right? But who did it? And then Yahusha answers that neither have this man sinned, nor his parents. Man ain't sinned. He didn't sin. Neither did his parents sin. Now, did they not sin because they kept the Torah? Right? Or they did not sin in a manner that led to their son being born blind? Yahusha said they didn't sin. Neither this man sinned, neither haveth this man sinned, nor his parents. Neither one of them. Yahusha said, this is about me doing what my Father has called me to do and reaching those that he has chosen. Can't no man come to me except I draw him. And then I can't do nothing for nobody unless Yahuwah tells me. Yahusha saw a man that was born blind. Now, he saw the man, and he perceived by the Ruach HaKodesh that he had received from the Father that this man's blindness was from birth. He operated in a spiritual gift of discernment. He had a revelation, a word of knowledge. He understood from Yahuwah because he had all power in the Shamayim and the rest. Yahuwah revealed to him that this man was born blind. And his disciples asked him, Master, who sinned? Who violated the Torah? His mother or his father? Him or his parents? Which one? If he was born blind, now, right? If he's born blind, right? Born blind. How could he sin? You said it was from birth. How can the baby sin? You're born blind. This blindness was from birth. It wasn't an onset blindness that occurred in later in his life. He was born blind at birth. Right? So Yahushua said neither. He didn't sin. Born blind. Well, it's not his fault that he was born blind. He was born blind. It was not his mother and father's fault that he was born blind. They produced a seed, and that seed, for whatever reason, came forth blind. Yahusha says, neither one of them did, but that the works of Elohiym should be made manifested in him. Yahuwah's works, that they may be demonstrated in him. Right? Yahuwah is about to bring a blind man light. Yahusha is about to remove the bondage of darkness, literal, from a man and bring him the light of life, vision. He said this is being done. This situation is occurring now here in him, that Yahuwah may be glorified and that the works of Elohiym may be done. Right? And then he goes on to say, Yahusha goes on and says, for I must work the work of him that sent me. Right? While it is day. Right? While it is day. While it is day? You mean because it's the daytime, Yahusha? Well, you know, we do most of what we do in the daytime, but you know, sometimes we do things at night. Why it is day. Right? While it is the opportunity to have the light of the world in the world, right? Because once it leaves, it's going to be dark. And the only glimmer of light is going to be in those who have received my Ruach HaKodesh and my Basora of truth, and who goes forth in darkness to bring light. Because it's daytime as long as I'm here. I am the light of the world as long as I'm here. It is day as long as I'm here, right? The night cometh, and no man can work. And technically, you could say, well, you know, nobody does work at night because, you know, you can't see at night. Right, but it was a deeper meaning than that for Yahusha. Yahusha was never just superficial. Yahusha always had 2, 3, 4 meanings in everything he said, because everything he said referenced Torah, and it was always in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So, Yahusha, the Besorah made flesh, the Torah of truth. Yahusha said, I must work. I must take this light and shine it in darkness, right? While I am still here and you have the opportunity and they have the opportunity. Because as long as I am in this world, I am the light of this world. And this light cannot be comprehended by darkness. But once I leave, then darkness, the night, now has its place, right? No man can work. He says, for as long as I am in the world, right? He explains it. I am the light of the world. I am day. I am the hope of your salvation, your Yeshua. I am the hope of this blind man's release from bondage to darkness. I am the light that is going to set him free. Yahusha says in that 6th verse, and when he had spoken, he spat on the ground. And made clay out of the spittle and anointed the eyes of the blind man with clay. Now, when you look at this, right, this whole incident, Yahusha did this without the blind man knowing it. Right? There's no dialogue between Yahusha and the blind man. The dialogue is between Yahusha and his disciples. The blind man didn't say, Yahusha, thy son of David, heal me. He didn't even know who Yahusha was. He couldn't see him. He didn't know him. Yahusha saw him and realized he was blind from birth. He's blind from birth. He had no dialogue with this man. Yahusha said neither him or his parents sinned. But he's going to heal this man because Yahuwah, his father, has instructed him to do it. Yahusha said, I must do the work. And this is one of the people that Yahuwah has called me to perform the work on. When Yahusha had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay out of the spittle and anointed the eyes of the blind man with clay, right? And said unto him, go wash in the pool of Shiloach. Now, no doubt the man probably heard the conversation that Yahusha was having with his disciples, but he never said anything about him needing to be healed. He heard Yahusha say he must do the work while it is day. He probably heard the fact that Yahusha had said, listen, no man has sinned, he nor his parents have sinned. But that he may do the work. So he probably heard that. He probably didn't understand necessarily what it meant, but he heard it. Yahuwah spits on the ground and makes spittle out of clay and puts it on the man's eyes and tells him to go wash in the pool of the Shiloach. The man and went his way therefore and washed. Right? He went and washed his eyes. Like Yahusha said. It didn't say that the man was looking in faith to Yahusha to heal him. It didn't say that at all. The man was blind. And the man probably was satisfied and comfortable with having been blind. He wasn't begging Yahusha to heal him. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Yahusha had to demonstrate to this man and to his disciples, right, that he is the light of the world. This man was in physical darkness. Yahusha was using a physical illustration to bring a spiritual revelation of light and darkness, right? Yahusha was there present, and because he was there present, he could remove that burden, that yoke of blindness, and replace it with life and light. That's why he's the light of the world. He shines in darkness. The man was in darkness. Yahusha shined. He went his way, therefore, and washed and came seeing. So he went and washed his eyes and came back to Yahusha seeing. Right? Now, verse 8 says, the neighbors, therefore, and they which before had seen him that was blind said, is this not he that sat and begged? Isn't that man who been sitting over there, been begging, blind? That's him, ain't he? Right, that's him. Some says, it is he. Others says, it look like him, but it ain't him. This is body, though. This is twin. But the man said, it is me. I am he. Right? Therefore said they unto him, how were your eyes then open? Right? So they see him, they're like, yo, how you get your eyes open? I mean, you was born blind, wasn't you? How'd you open them? He answered and said, a man that is called Yahusha, Yah salvation. He said he was the light of the world. He said he had told his disciples he was the light of the world. Yeah, it was him. He told me. It was him, Yahusha. He made clay out of spit and put it on my eyes. And said unto me, go wash in the pool of Shiloach. And I went and washed, and I received my sight. I was no longer in darkness. He became the light of the world. He became the light in my world. I was in bondage to darkness. But Yahusha became the light of the world to me. Oh, man, right? Then said they unto him, where is he? And he said, I don't know. He said, I don't know. And at that point, he hadn't even seen Yahusha. Look, he had his eyes made whole, right? He didn't even know what Yahusha looked like. It wasn't like he could point him out. Now, he would probably be able to tune into his ear because, his hearing was probably astute. He probably had exceptional hearing. But listen, his eyes, he was in darkness. He couldn't point Yahusha out even if he wanted to. Right? Then they said unto him, where is he? He said, I don't know. It's funny because, when you think about it, right? Just think about it. You got a blind man that was blind, but now he sees. There was a man who made spit out of the ground and told him to put in his eyes and go wash, and he did. Wash, and he came up out of there, and, he ran into you, and you asking him, you that man that is born blind, that's him? He said, yeah, I'm he. Oh, he said, wow, what happened? And, a man told me he was going, he was light of the world, and he made spittle out of the ground, and, he put it in my eye, told me to go wash, so, I did. When I did, I came seeing. Well, where is he? Where is he? No, who is he? Oh, he said his name was Yahusha. Yah salvation. Where is he? I don't know. I haven't seen him. Right? So what they did was they grabbed him and took him straight to the Pharisees. Yeah, took him straight to the Pharisees because, Pharisees trying to accumulate evidence, right, that would support their theory, right, that he's a evil man, right, that he is worthy of death, to be stoned, right here. But then when we have them bringing this man, right, they brought to the Pharisees him that was aforetime blind, right? And it was the Shabbat day. Now listen, don't think that Yahusha did not know what was going to happen. Yahusha knew everything. He had the Ruach HaKodesh without measure. He had the Ruach of wisdom and revelation. He received words of knowledge. He was the discerner of the hearts and the intents of men. Right? He knew how this was going to play out. He had the Father in him. It was the Shabbat, that was just evidence. Oh, look, we found another man that was healed on the Shabbat. Let's take him to the Pharisees. And they brought to the Pharisee him that was aforetime was blind, and it was the Shabbat day when Yahusha made the clay and opened his eyes. Is it lawful for a man to do good on the Shabbat? Which one of you who would see his neighbor or his ox in the ditch and won't pull him out on the Shabbat? Right? You will circumcise a baby on the Shabbat, but yet you have a problem with me telling a man that's lame to get up and walk on the Shabbat. And now you gonna have a problem with me from opening a blind man's eyes on the Shabbat. I'm the light of the world. He was in darkness. Now he's in light. Right? So then again, the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. And he said unto him, he put clay upon my eyes, and I wash, and I do see. And therefore said some of the Pharisees, this man is not of Elohiym, because he keepeth not the Shabbat day. He is not of Yahuwah. He doesn't keep the Shabbat day. He heals people on the Shabbat. He removes their burdens. He destroys their yokes, and he does it on the Shabbat. This man is not of Elohiym, right? Yahusha, he removes burdens and destroys yokes. They said, therefore, said some of the Pharisees, this man is not of Elohiym, because he keepeth not the Shabbat. Others says, how can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? Right? Because the idea is sinners are wicked and they don't do righteousness. But here's a man that you're saying that is a sinner and wicked. Listen, all he does is righteousness. It doesn't add up. 2 plus 2 don't equal 4. Right? Don't add up. They said, how can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? And there was a division amongst them. Now they're starting to get divided in the ranks. Because, these Pharisees, Maybe one of them was Nicodemus. The one that had a personal encounter with Yahusha, snuck in by night. Ask crazy questions like, how can a man be born again? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb? Ridiculous. Maybe it was Nicodemus, because Nicodemus says, listen, we don't judge no man without having first talked to him. First, he said, what are you from Galilee too? Perhaps the division had something to do with Nicodemus, right? Anyway, anywho, they said unto the man again, what sayest thou of him, that he haveth opened thine eyes? He said, he is a prophet. Right? He's a prophet. You know, he has to be somebody that's could do the miracles of Yahuwah, right? Oh, to open my eyes. I mean, a prophet Elisha, you know, they used to do stuff like that. He must be a prophet, you know. You know, somebody was dead, and was it Elijah or Elisha? The woman had a son, and the son had died, and I think Elijah. Man, I always get them. Sometimes I get them. Anyway, one of the prophets took this boy and he laid with him, and the boy, I think he laid on the boy. Anyway, and anywho, the boy was made alive. So the man said he had to be a prophet. He wasn't just anybody. He had to be a prophet. Because can't nobody do that. I mean, I ain't never did it. Now, one time did you Pharisees or you Sadducees come to me and make spittle and put it on the ground and make a clay and tell me to wash and have my eyes open? That one time. So listen, he had to be a prophet. All I know was I was blind, right? And he became the light of the world to me, and he said something about being the light of the world. Oh, man, right? He said. Therefore, some of the Pharisees said the man. Now, keep it okay. Verse 17. They say unto the blind man again, what sayest thou of him, that he hath opened thine eyes? What do you say? He's opened your eyes? He said, yeah, he is a prophet. Right? And your Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind. They didn't believe it. See, they ain't had no power, right? They had what they thought was a Torah, but they didn't even have the Torah because they didn't walk in obedience to the Torah. They didn't even have that. They didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh. Even the prophets had the spirit of Elohiym on them. That's how they could do what they did, because the spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, was upon them. The spirit of Elohiym is the Ruach HaKodesh. The spirit of the Lord was a spirit of this is the spirit of the Lord, but it's the spirit of Elohiym. Spirit of Yahuwah was upon him. But the Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind and received his sight, until they called his parents to him that had received his sight. He says, okay, so we look, you hang out here. We need to talk to your parents. You know, because you said you was born blind. They said you was born blind? You used to beg, and now, you know, all your life. Now you see? I don't know. That's suspect. Let me ask your parents, right? And they said unto him, saying, is this your son? Because they had him on lock there, right? He wasn't going nowhere. They sent for his parents. You're going to stay here till we get your parents. We're going to get to the bottom of this, right? Is this your son who ye see, you say, was born blind? How then do he now see? Is this your son who was blind and now he sees? How did this happen? Right? And the parents answered and said unto him, we know that this is our son. Yeah, this is our son. We know our son, right? And that he was born blind. We know that for a certainty because we raised him. He was blind, right? His parents answered them and said, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind. But by what manner he now sees, look, we don't know. We don't have any idea. This is the first time we heard about it. They found him, took him straight to the Pharisees. It's probably a shock to the parents. Oh, the Pharisees want to see you about your son. He's in the temple with them, and he can see. What do you mean he can see? He can see now. What do you mean he can see now? Well, your Pharisees need to see you in the temple. You need to come because you need to verify this, right? And the parents answered and said unto him, we know that this is our son. Yeah, that's our son. Yeah, he was born blind, but by what means he now sees, we don't know. Or who hath opened his eyes, we don't know. Look, he's of age. He's old enough, ask him. We know your son. He said he's of age, ask him. He should speak for himself. Right? Now, this is wisdom, right? This is wisdom. These words the parents spake because they feared the Yahus. They knew that he was healed. And they knew it was probably Yahusha because somebody had no doubt said, they said it's Yahusha that touched his eyes and healed him. These parents, they knew. They knew. But because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed already that if any man did confess that he was Mashiach, he'd be put out of the synagogue. So you get straight excommunicated for believing Yahusha HaMashiach, the son of Elohiym. These folks said, we don't want to be put out of the assembly. We don't want to be put out the synagogue. We don't want to be kicked out. Because we believed on this Yahusha, we don't want to be kicked out. We won't. We don't want that, right? Therefore, said his parents, he is of age. Ask him, right? Right. So here we go again. The runaround, right? This trying to get to the bottom of the truth, which is already there, right? This failure to receive the basor of truth at the mouth of Yahusha HaMashiach, right? The failure to receive the truth at the mouth of someone who bore witness and could bear witness of a notable, a miracle, right, that occurred to them, right? His parents witnessed to the fact that it was his son, and he was blind, but he sees. We don't know how he sees, but we know he was blind, which is an indication that the man is telling the truth because now he sees, right? Then said they to him again, what did he to thee? Right? What did he do to thee? How opened he thine eyes? Right? He answered them, I have told you already. And ye did not hear. Listen. I done told you. I am an example of his basora of truth. He has always said, believe me for what I say or for my work, right? But at any rate, any who believes me, right? I'm telling you what happened. I am a witness to the fact that I have been released from the bondage of darkness, right? Now I see and I have received the light at the hands of Yahusha HaMashiach. I'm telling you. He answered, I told you already. And ye did not hear me, wherefore would ye hear it again? Will ye also be his disciples? He said, listen, I done told you once. If I tell you again, are you going to be his disciples? Are you going to believe him for the works, or are you going to believe him for the word? Are you going to become a follower of him? Why are you? Is that what your motive is? You trying to get to be a follower? Man, listen. Then they reviled him. Right, they reviled. Let's look at that word revile. Even though I know what it means. We gonna look at the word reviled. This is what they did to him, right? The Greek word is
Strong's G 3058. Loidareo.
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 Right? Loidareo, right? They loidareoed him, right? They reviled him. They heaped abuse upon him. You will be hated for my name's sake, Yahusha said. They gonna hate you. They gonna revile you. They gonna reproach you. They gonna rail you. They gonna call you all kinds of names and profanity. They gonna say all kinds of manner of evil against you because they hate me. Nah, they don't want to be his disciples. They hate him. So they railed him and said, thou art his disciple. But we are Mosheh's disciples. So what they were saying is you follow the Torah, the Basura of Yahusha HaMashiach, right? And we obey Mosheh's Torah. And Moshe ain't had no Torah. It was Yahuwah's Torah. Right? Even in their arrogance, they're ignorant. Right? Not even based on truth and knowledge. They just slapped ignorant. Right? Ignorant. They said, right? They said that they're Moshe's disciples. They said, we are Moshe's disciples. We know that Elohiym spake unto Mosheh. How you know? As for this fellow, we know not from whence he is. We know Yahuwah gave Mosheh the Torah. You know that. We follow Mosheh. He already told him before Mosheh looked to him. Abraham looked to his day. Mosheh wrote about him. Mosheh wrote about me. He said, listen, verse 30. The man answered and said unto them, why herein is a marvelous thing that ye know not from whence he is, yet he hath opened mine eyes. Listen, the man said to him, why is there a struggle to conceive of this marvelous act of opening my eyes from my birth? I was blind. I was in bondage to darkness. Why herein is a marvelous thing. Why herein is a marvelous thing. This. He told the disciples, listen, I'm going to do marvelous things in your eyes. All of this is just Yahusha's confirming the fact that he was going to do what he said he would do, and the Pharisees was going to have to bear witness. Because you know what, the Torah is going to judge them. You have to bear witness to it. Listen, he says, it's a marvelous thing that ye know not from whence it is. He is. This man, how come you don't know who he is? Well, listen, this man has done a notable miracle, but yet you don't know who he is. How is that possible? If the man's a prophet, you should know who he is. If he's the son of Yahuwah, you should know who he is. Because you the religious leader. You the Pharisee. You the Sadducees. You the Sanhedrin. You the priests. You the Levites. You the scribes. How come you don't know? And yet, he's opened mine eyes, but you don't know who he is. You don't know where he comes from. Right? Now we know that Yahuwah heareth not sinners. Yeah, because they don't hear you, he don't hear you. But if any man be a worshiper of Yahuwah, and doeth his will, he heareth him. What? The man said in verse 30, the man answered and said unto them, why herein is a marvelous thing, that ye know not from whence he is, and yet he hath opened mine eyes. Now we know that Yahuwah heareth not sinners. Now this is the blind man, the former blind man, instructing the Pharisees. Wait a minute. So Yahusha Basora is being preached by one of his most newest disciples to the religious folk. He said, listen, we know Yahuwah don't hear sinners. That's Torah. But if any man be a worshiper of Yahuwah and doeth his will, he heareth him. And this man made spittle, clay, and put it on my eyes and told me to go wash. And Yahuwah opened my eyes, which means that Yahuwah hears him. Right? Since the world begins, was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind? Have you ever heard a record recorded in any of the scriptures, in any of our history of this thing ever happening? Here's a man born blind. It's never a record, nothing. And you gonna sit here and question whether or not it's from Yahuwah? You should know that this man is a prophet, at the least. If this man were not of Elohiym, he could do nothing. Like you. If this man was like you, he could do nothing. What he said was, if this man were not of Elohiym, Yahuwah, he could do nothing. In the same breath, he's saying, you can do nothing because you ain't heard by Elohiym. Now, they get mad now, right? They answered and said unto him, thou wast altogether born in sin, and doest thou teach us? So, you were born in sin, but so were we. But you are presuming to teach us? They really think that they didn't stink. They really believed that they were truly better than everybody else. He says, they answered and said unto him, thou wast altogether born in sin. They told this blind man, he was born in sin. Now you know what? Yahusha said that he had not sinned, neither had his parents sinned, but that Yahuwah's work may be done. The Pharisees turned around and said, you sinned? You sinned? You were born in sin, but so were they. He says, and dost thou teach us? Remember when Yahusha was in the temple and he was stood up to teach, and they said, how does this man teach? He ain't got no letters. Now this man, right, one of Yahusha's new converts, by fire. He's by fire, right? No Ruach HaKodesh, but just letting the Pharisees know what time it is. Right? They answered and said unto him, thou wast altogether born in sin, and thou doest teach us, and they cast him out. They put him out the synagogue. They put him out the synagogue. Right? Right? What was the parents' fear? Right? They feared that, in verse 22, these words spake his parents because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had agreed already that if any man confessed that Yahusha was Mashiach, was anointed, Mashiach, he should be put out the synagogue. Yahusha was light to this man. It's obvious that this man recognized that Yahusha was somebody special. And he tried to convey that to the Pharisees, but you know what? They put him out the synagogue. He was put out. He was kicked out of the church. He kicked out of the church because he was healed on the Shabbat. Yahusha did good on the Shabbat. He said, I got to work the work of Yahuwah while it is day. Right? I'm the light of the world. And when I leave, gross darkness is going to cover the earth. Okay, let's go on. Right? Verse 35. And Yahusha heard that they had casted him out of the synagogue. And when he had found him, because Yahusha heard that they put him out. Yahusha went to look for him. He found him. And Yahusha heard that they had casted him out. And when he had found him, he said unto him, he said, doest thou believest on the Son of Elohiym? I mean, you got put out because you believed. The Pharisees felt that your witness and your testimony puts you in the place of believing on me as the light of the world, right? You've received my witness, right? You've received it based on the work that I've done, right? I healed you. I opened your eyes, right? We said, do you believe on the Son of Elohiym? He answered and said unto him, who is he? The man ain't never seen Yahusha before, so, he had never seen Yahusha before. And Yahusha sought him out because he found the man. He heard the man was kicked out of the church, of the synagogue. You shall be persecuted for my name's sake. They gonna put you out and they gonna think they doing me a favor. Yahusha said, doest thou believe on the Son of Elohiym? He answered and said, who is he? The man didn't recognize who Yahusha had. He answered and said, who is he, Adonai, that I might believe on him? Who is he? And Yahusha said unto him, thou hast both seen him now, right? And it is he that talketh with thee, right? So you are the one who put the clay in my eyes. You are the one that told me to go wash in the pool of Shiloach. You were the one who I began to testify to. You are the one that caused me to get put out the synagogue because I believed on you. But now I know who you are because I've seen you and I've heard you. Yahusha said unto him, thou hast both seen me, now you see me, right? And you have heard me, and you talk with me, the Son of Elohiym, the one that opened your eyes, right? And he said, Adonai, I believe, and worshipped. No man said him, he didn't sin nor his mother. Right? But he received Yeshua. Yahuwah sent Yahusha to the man that was born blind. The man testified on the Shabbat to the Pharisees concerning Yahushua HaMashiach. He became a witness, a disciple. Right. His parents chose not to receive or to confess Yahushua HaMashiach because they feared the Jews and they didn't want to put out the church. They didn't want to put out the church. They knew who Yahusha was, but they didn't want to acknowledge the fact that Yahusha was the healer. Right. because they knew that they would get put out of church if they believed on Yahusha. The blind man says, say what you want. I don't care. I know. This man had to be a prophet because ain't no sinner going to do what he do. Not one. There's not a sinner on the earth that's going to heal a man that's blind. Not from birth. Matter of fact, there's no record ever recorded that any such miracle was done. And you ain't never did it. Actually, we ain't never seen you do any miracles. You get out the church and don't you come back. You can't come to the temple anymore. You can't come to the synagogue anymore. You have been excommunicado. You've been excommunicado. You can't come back in. Yahusha learned that this man was put out for his witness and his testimony of Mashiach. Yahusha said, I'm going to personally go to him and find him. Because he took one for the team. And the Pharisees put him out of his father's house. Took one for the team. Yahusha found him. Yahusha said, do you know who the son of Elohiym is? Man said, no, I don't. Never seen him. I don't know who he is. He says, you see him now, and I am he who talks to you. You believe on me. Right? And he said, Adonai, I believe, and he worshipped him, right? And Yahusha said, for judgment, I am coming to the world. For judgment. Listen. The light. Light has dual purposes, right? It's a revealer. It opens, it illuminates, right? But it also stands as judgment to the darkness. Light stands in judgment, stands to judge the darkness. Right? Yahusha says, for judgment I am coming to this world, that they which see not might see, and they which see might be made blind. Right? So. Yahusha says, listen, for judgment, right? For judgment, I am coming to this world, right? I've come to judge the world, right? I'm the light of the world. Light reveals darkness. Light reveals darkness. Yahusha used the illustration of a blind man. There are people in Yahusha that were blind from birth, right? Because technically, the Torah was to be passed down to our children. They were to keep the Torah, right? But their fathers and their ancestors wandered and got off into adultery and whoredom, and then you got Esau that got mingled in, and they in leadership, authority, and positions. The whole order of how things occur in the assembly, in the temple was just out of whack, right? So they were born blind. A lot of them were born blind because of their ancestors, right? Yahusha said, he was the light of the world. The blind man's illustration is a reflection of when light comes. When you choose to receive it, it brings life, freedom. But when you don't receive the light, it judges you. Judge the Pharisees. Judge them. And Yahusha said unto them, for judgment I am come into the world, that they which see not might see. Blind man didn't see. He didn't see. But in the end, he seed. He saw. Right? And they which see, or that they think they see, because they don't really see, might be made blind. Pharisees were blind. Sadducees, they were blind. They could not see Yahuwah, Torah made flesh. They were blind. He blinded the minds of them lest they should see the Besorah, the Torah. Blinded them. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words and said unto him, are we blind also? Some of the Pharisees. Right? Yahusha said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have no sin. Right? But ye say, we see, therefore your sin remains. Yahusha, what you saying? You blind. Because you fail to see the truth of Torah. Right? You fail to acknowledge that I am the Besorah of truth. I am the light of the world. You fail to acknowledge that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Right? You want to kill me because I heal on the Shabbat. You want to stone me because I declare the truth of Torah. You should said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have not sinned. Right? He should have not sinned. He says, but now ye say we see. But you say you see. But you don't see. Therefore your sin remains. Are you willing to pay the price? Yasharal, Yahuda. Are you willing to acknowledge that Yahusha is the son of Elohiym? Are you willing to confess that by works and by word he is Mashiach? Yahusha said he was the light of the world. He removed the burden of darkness from a man who was born physically blind to illustrate the point that if you are in darkness, you could receive light. This man, Yahusha, used to the Pharisees to try to get them to see the light, but they refused. They were judged because light had come to them, but they refused it. And then they kicked him out of the synagogue. Ooh, man of Yah, woman of Yah, Yahusha and the blind man. His parents chose the synagogue. They chose the Pharisees over the Besorah of truth that their son clinged to. He accepted the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. His parents rejected it. His parents rejected the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. They knew Yahusha had done it, but they didn't want to say it because they feared. That ain't no excuse. That boy didn't fear. He received his sight. He stood up for the truth. He didn't even know who a Mashiach was. He had never seen him. But yet he believed what he had did. He believed it for the work's sake. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, make a choice. You got to believe him for what he says or his work's sake. And then you have to stand on what you know. Yahusha, the light of the world. Light shined in darkness. And you remember this. Yahusha said as long as he is in the world, he is the light of the world. And as long as he is in you by his Ruach HaKodesh, you are lights, not to be hid under a bushel, not to be denied, but to be on a hill, a light, candle, a menorah. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's it. YOCHANON, the 9th chapter, in its entirety. Yahuwah, I pray that in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, that the word that you've given me, and I have given them, that they keep it. I pray, Yahusha, that the spirit of wisdom and revelation by the Ruach HaKodesh be made manifest in them. Those who have received the Ruach HaKodesh continue to move under your spiritual anointing in them and by your gifts. And Yahuwah, for those who have not received the Ruach HaKodesh, I pray that they would receive it by emunah now, and stand and declare and confess and develop an intimacy with you in it. I pray that it be so in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Man of Yah, called to greatness, woman of Yah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Today the Most High Yahuwah Zava'o and his son Yahusha HaMashiach has favored you. And with that, I say shalom. Shalom.
Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.